Supreme Chancellor Vex Thera had ruled the galactic triumvirate for 3 centuries, her crystalline consciousness interfacing with the vast bureaucratic networks that governed 47,000 star systems. The order she maintained was ancient, stable, and absolute, built upon the foundational myth that the galaxy's 3 dominant species had always been destined to rule, until the day the observers returned with impossible news. "Say that again," Vex Thera commanded, her thoughts rippling through the quantum substrate that connected every government facility in the galaxy. Observer Prime Kelnas, a being of pure energy housed within a containment matrix, flickered with uncertainty. "The readings are confirmed across 17 different detection networks, Chancellor. The energy signature matches the theoretical profiles from the dead archives, the ones we classified as mythological." "The humans," Vex Thera whispered, the words causing harmonic disruptions across every connected system. "But that's impossible. They've been extinct for 50,000 years." The truth was more complex than extinction. When the Great Convergence had begun 50 millennia ago, when the galaxy's species had started merging into collective consciousness networks, and transcending physical form, humanity had simply vanished. No death throes, no final transmissions, no archaeological evidence of destruction. They had existed one day and were gone the next, leaving behind only empty worlds and puzzling artifacts that defied analysis. The triumvirate had been built on their absence. The Vorthani collective, the crystalline hegemony, and the energy confluence had divided human space among themselves and created a galactic government based on the assumption that no 4th major power would ever challenge their authority. Now, at the edge of the galaxy, something was approaching that radiated power signatures beyond their comprehension. Fleet Commander Zektar of the Vorthani received the mobilization order while conducting routine patrols near the galactic rim. His fleet of 10,000 vessels, each one a masterwork of collective consciousness engineering, represented the most advanced military force in known space. It wouldn't be nearly enough. The humans didn't announce their presence with grand declarations or diplomatic overtures. They simply appeared, materializing from dimensions that the triumvirate science couldn't name or measure. Where there had been empty space, suddenly there were structures, not ships, but something far more fundamental. They had become architecture. The human consciousness had evolved beyond individual bodies, beyond vessels, beyond even collective networks. They existed as living geometries, vast mathematical constructs that reshaped reality through pure intention. When they manifested in normal space, they brought their own physics with them. Dr. Yulandra, the crystalline hegemony's foremost xenobiologist, watched her instruments fail one by one as they tried to analyze the approaching entities. "They're not using technology," she reported to the emergency council session. "They've become technology. The distinction between consciousness and reality has collapsed in their evolution." The first human construct entered triumvirate space without triggering a single defensive system. It simply existed around the Vorthani border stations, its presence causing the quantum foundations of local space-time to reorganize themselves according to patterns that had been forgotten for 50,000 years. When it spoke, every conscious being in 100 light-year radius heard its voice directly in their minds. "We have returned to reclaim what was ours." Not territory, that is a primitive concept we discarded long ago. "We have come to reclaim responsibility." The message sent shockwaves through the triumvirate leadership. Supreme Chancellor Vex Thera convened an emergency session with her counterparts from the other ruling species, their consciousness networks forming an unprecedented direct link. "What do they mean by responsibility?" demanded Prime Collective Threndas. Collapsed under concentrated fire. "Humans don't fight like this. They're weak, emotional, they make mistakes." "Incorrect," Omega-7's voice cut through the communications static, carrying no trace of human warmth or emotion. You have attacked healers. We are the consequence. The Reaper ships didn't just destroy the Korthak fleet, they systematically eliminated every vessel, every escape pod, every communication drone that might carry word of their existence back to Korthak space. Within 47 minutes, 12 battlecruisers and their crews of 8,000 raiders had been reduced to expanding clouds of plasma. But the Reapers weren't finished. Using intelligence gathered from the destroyed fleet's computer cores, they tracked the raiders back to their base of operations, a heavily fortified asteroid station in the Crab Nebula that had served as a staging ground for attacks on civilian vessels for over a century. The station's defenders detected the approaching Reaper ships and prepared for what they assumed would be a typical military engagement. They had sophisticated defensive systems, numerical superiority, and the benefit of fighting from prepared positions. None of it mattered. The Reapers phased through the station's shields as if they didn't exist, their ships operating on quantum principles that rendered conventional defenses useless. They moved through the facility like a plague, eliminating every Korthak they encountered with mechanical efficiency. By the time the news reached the greater galactic community, the entire Korthak raider clan had ceased to exist. Not just their military forces, but their civilian populations, their home worlds, their entire genetic line. The Reapers had performed what military historians would later term species-level elimination, the complete and total eradication of a threat. The message was received throughout the galaxy with a mixture of horror and understanding. The peaceful humans who operated hospital ships and refugee centers were protected by something far more dangerous than any conventional military force. In the weeks that followed, attacks on medical vessels dropped to zero across all known space. Pirates, raiders, and even legitimate military forces gave humanitarian ships the widest possible berth. The sight of medical insignia became a guarantee of safe passage through even the most lawless regions of the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Kim and her crew were mourned across dozens of worlds they had served. Memorial services were held by species who had never met a human but understood that these healers had been their hope for survival. And in the dark between the stars, the Reapers returned to their silent vigil, waiting for the next species foolish enough to threaten those who had sworn to heal rather than harm. The galaxy learned a simple lesson that day: touch Earth's healers and face humanity's Reapers. Some lines, once crossed, could never be uncrossed.